In this video, I review Kraken Studios Fantasy Stadiums. Before we get into today's video, just wanted to share the GGGG for this month. Every month, Bob the Beholder picks some of my Patreon supporters to receive gratitude gifts. And for this month, June of 2021, we have 2 pledges for Kraken Studios' current Kickstarter, the Fantasy Dungeon set, as well as other crowdfunders. So go and click on the link below to my Patreon page to see what the GGGGs are for this month. Last week, I did a review video for their current Kickstarter, the Fantasy Dungeons. Because they currently have a discount on all of their previous files, I hurried and rushed to paint up this Fantasy Stadium set so that you guys could jump in really quickly if you wanted to take advantage of the 20% off that's currently happening. By the time this video posts on Friday of June 18th, you only have 1 day because this Fantasy Dungeons Kickstarter is ending on the 19th, so you have a very short amount of time. But even if it's after that, go ahead and check out links below to go to Kraken Studios website and you can pick up these files now. The set that I have here is the Rocky set, and there is also the wooden stadium and the stone stadium, as well as the grassy stadium. So you have a lot of different options and a lot of different themes. There was an original Kickstarter where they had all of these features and all of these files. And that's a great place if you want to check out the different files that are available, or you can just go directly to their website and see the different themes. Now, I adjusted my set so that it could fit Blitz Bowl because these files are originally for Blood Bowl, but because I like a more streamlined rule set that is quicker, I really like Blitz Bowl a lot. Also, I did make a video on how to magnetize the footballs that are on these miniatures, as well as how to quick paint them. If you want to see that, go ahead and click here. Also, make sure to check out my previous video on the Fantasy Dungeon set, and so click here for that one as well. The way I found out about Kraken Studios was as soon as I started painting up and playing Blitz Bowl, I really wanted to create a custom 3D board for the game. And because it's a smaller board, I thought it would be relatively quick to do. But doing a Google search, I was surprised to find that Kraken Studios actually does create STL files. And so I reached out to them and they were kind enough to send me this set, along with a bunch of other STL files, especially the miniatures. And because I had to rush and get this project done before their campaign was over, I wasn't able to print out any of their miniatures because I wanted to print out some of the minis that are actually seated, and they can be fans seated in the stands, or there are referees or people serving drinks. And this is just a really small sampling of all of the files that they have. Also here I have the prisoner cart that I didn't finish up painting in time for this video, but they have a lot of cool features. The reason why I printed this up is because there are obstacles in Blitz Bowl depending on the map that you're using, and I thought that I might be able to use it, but it's a little bit too big. But the cart is awesome. The other thing to realize is the reason why the details on the map looks really good is all of these files are set up so that you print them standing up. I print all of my terrain files at 0.2 millimeter height. That's exactly what you see here, and I'm really happy with the amount of detail that comes out on these files because you are printing them up vertically. You are able to print these flat horizontally, but you get a lot of contour lines that will show up. So ideally it's best to print vertically, and they have a lot of tutorial videos as well as documentation that shows you the brim that you need to place around it so that it will remain standing. And these files are actually optimized for resin printers. But I didn't print any of these files off of resin printer. I used my FDM printer, and again at 0.2 millimeter height, I think they turned out great. But I did have to enable auto supports in my Prusa Sicer. They give you directions on how to do that with Cura if you're using Cura instead, but I did have to use auto supports, and that made these guys turn out fine, although all of these were printed in these really big blocks of supports that I had to peel away. So just keep that in mind as you're printing, but I am super happy with the level of detail that these pieces came out with, and I just love all of the options that you have for printing out these side buildings. I actually printed out another set of bleachers so that once I print out the fans in resin, I'll be able to have more of them. And also I made it so that these pieces here are removable so that I could swap in different buildings as I need them. But I think this set is really awesome. They also come out with a scoreboard that you can print out. They also have a Goblin TV crew that you can have. So there is a ton of variability. As well, I put these pieces onto hardboard, some cheap hardboard, instead of using the clips, because I wasn't going to move these at all or make these interchangeable. That just makes it so that I can move this board, store it much more easily just by having all of the pieces glued down. But you do have the option, if you wanted to, you could put an end zone with a field goal. You can also, if you wanted to, on the opposite side of the board, put up more buildings. You can put up fencing. There's so much variability, and just check out their website and you can see that some of the packages that you can buy includes everything for that theme. These were the only files that I could find online for 3D printable Blitz Bowl or Blood Bowl set. If you guys know of any, go ahead and comment below, but this really is the only that I saw commercially available. One of the questions that I do have though, as the Rocky version that I have printed out, I do wonder a little bit if the board is a little bit too busy, and it made me reconsider a little bit. Maybe I should have gone with more of the grassy set, because if you look at this building over here, this is what the grassy set looks a little bit more like. I do know in terms of the photos that Kraken Studios have, they actually put flocking, what looks like flocking, onto the map, and that looks really cool. I didn't want to have to mess with flocking, so I just painted. And at the end of this video, I do have a painting tutorial, so check that out if you want to know how to paint this up really quickly. Also, I put these numbers across the top that is exclusive to the Blitz Bowl map, and I did that through Microsoft 3D Builder. If you want to see the video on how to use that program, go ahead and click here, but it was super easy. And maybe what I'll do is I will give Kraken Studios my modified files in case you want to use it for Blitz Bowl as well. I still have to print out some trapdoors for where the ball comes out. I think I'll just print out a regular trapdoor that I can move around onto because of the various maps that you can play off of. I also need to print out some obstacles, so there might be some files out there that I might use just to print out the obstacles that will fit these spaces on the board. But other than that, I think this map is ready to go, and it looks insane. It looks awesome, and I think it adds so much to anyone's pitch while they're playing Blood Bowl or Blitz Bowl. Other than that, please like and subscribe. Check out a lot of my other videos of the terrain that I'm printing out and painting up. Again, check out my Patreon page if you want to get in on the gratitude gift of the month. Stick around if you want to check out the painting tutorial. Otherwise, happy printing, happy painting. We'll see you next time. I used two different kinds of primer. The first one is this slate gray ultra matte from Rust-Oleum. If you don't have this, go ahead and grab the darkest gray that you can. And I spray painted all of most of the tiles in that slate gray, anywhere where there is stone. And then the other one I use is this camouflage brown from Krylon. Now, Rust-Oleum has a camo line as well, and they also have a dark brown. They're pretty much the same thing, so whichever one you can find. If you don't have camouflage, just get the darkest brown that you can. And as you can see here, anything that has wood or primarily grass, I spray painted brown. So even though I painted this tile gray because it has a bunch of stone in it, the fence I spray painted with brown, and that is the case with these pieces. I could have done these in gray as well because there is some stone, but because it's predominantly grass, I made it brown. And then obviously these ones are mostly wood, and so all of that is spray painted brown, as well as this beer shack. And also I did do this prisoner's cart, but I started painting this. I'm going to go ahead and do the painting tutorial just showing you this single tile, just because it'll be easier to see. But I'm pretty much going to be painting this entire thing because it's glued down now, painting it all together, just because it's going to be faster. But I'm going to use the same methods that I'm using on the single tile. It'll just be easier for you to see this. So we're going to be working on the stones first, and what I'm going to do is do a mix of this zinc and slate gray. I only use craft paint for terrain. I don't really use miniatures paint because it's more expensive. But here in the United States, use Americana, but any kind of sort of, if you can get a mix of these two colors, because this is too dark to show up against this base and this is too light, so I need to mix those two together. I'm going to use this hog's hair brush, which is pretty stiff. I found that to be really helpful in being able to do terrain, and pretty much just sort of do half-half until you get this medium gray color. And you don't want your brush to really be wet. And then you're basically gonna go with the grain of the print. So the print lines are going left to right here, and I'm basically hitting up all of the stone like so. You don't have to be super exact, but that is pretty much the first layer. And now I'm gonna just take slate gray, and I don't even bother washing my brush, but I just grab slate gray and make sure there isn't too much on the brush, because you only want a little bit of this to just highlight the edges just a little bit more, like so, just to make the stones stick out just a little bit more. So the effect is pretty subtle, but that's what you're going for. Here I'm grabbing some burnt umber. Apple barrel, super cheap at Walmart, 50 cents for one of these. But just grab any dark brown that you can find. A little bit smaller brush this time, because what I'm going to be doing is dabbing on some mud, and also anywhere where there is wood, like this piece, and I'll probably have to come back later and use a regular sable brush to get this all brown. But just random places where you're just putting on brown, and this is equivalent of dirt. Also any skulls that you're finding here, right? Again, we'll probably have to use a sable brush to get these ones done well, all of these skeletons or skulls that are present. But just sort of in random places, just put down some brown, because that's what dirt is. You're just emulating dirt on the ground. And so just find some random places. We are, like I mentioned before, there are spots that we're going to have to come back to and put in more brown, but just pick random spots. Doesn't really matter too much. And you don't want these wood pieces to be super distinct from the rest of the ground. You sort of want it to all flow together, like so. Alright, so for the grass I'm using forest green, and then I'm going to lighten it up with some festive green as well. But we're first going to put this on. Don't even bother cleaning my brush off with the brown, because this is a dark green. So it doesn't matter if a little bit of brown is mixed in. And then here, I'm going to just be hitting up all the grass. And again, you can be somewhat random with where you're putting this. And see how I'm sort of stabbing it into these areas. You don't want a sharp demarcation of where the grass is and other things, but just get a good mix of all of the browns and the greens, the different colors. And then now with the brighter green. This is milk chocolate, and we're going to do all of the wood in this color. We're going to need to do 2 coats because this, against the dark background, needs 2 coats to really show through. And wherever you can, go against the grain because you want the dark undercoating to remain in the recesses so that you maintain the grain of the wood. So that's the first coat. So here I'm just mixing up some white with the brown to do the skulls. So I don't want it to be completely white. And here you have a pile, so I'll just do that. So just go around because on the other tiles as well, there's some skulls. So make sure you catch all the skulls. So we're grabbing some honey brown, and I'm actually mixing it a little bit with the milk chocolate just to tone it down just a tad, and using this as the highlight for this brown. So just go through and highlight all the edges. And pretty much, again, just dry brushing here. And then once you do that, go ahead and just grab the honey brown straight and just do some of the edges to make it a little bit lighter. And that's giving you variation on the wood. Here is our piece here. I already did this one, and it just lightens it up and create shading variations on the piece.